Okay, so there's no room to eliminate excess verbiage here, neither here. So again, I want to stress the point. Do not go crazy with eliminating excess verbiage. The point is not to make something more concise. The point is to get rid of stuff, the kinds of things that I've been showing you to get rid of. Okay, so do not mess with the precision of someone's statement, especially if they are particularly precise. The only thing we're going to take out in this instance is the word hence, the conclusion indicator, and I forgot to label that here. All right, so let's go ahead and do the argument diagram. If you think you might forget that the argument diagram is based on what you see in the ordinary argument, you might want to do the argument diagram first for that. And actually, I just realized that I've skipped this version of the argument, so let's work on that version. Oh no, these are two different arguments. So we're going to do this one, and then we'll go back up and do this one. Okay, so the diagram is going to be, it doesn't matter that these are all conditionals. So again, what do we start with in the argument diagram? We start with the ordinary argument, or we use the ordinary argument. I should have said, what do we use? Then we start with the premises, and we focus on first the statements. S1, a premise, works together jointly with S2, a premise. Symbol used for in support of, downward arrow. S3, a conclusion. Okay, if you haven't attempted to reformat the argument, go ahead and do so. I will tell you that there are at least 2 instances of uniform language that should be employed. Remember, you're not employing uniform language in the ordinary argument, you're employing it only in the final version of the clarified argument, the one that has been reformatted. Okay, so here I have the answer. Remember that this is what? The fully clarified version. So let's look at this line by line, and of course you can always pause this video. For this one, there was no room for uniform language. So this statement right here, you copied exactly down here. Let's look at premise 2. Notice what's premise, well, let's focus back up here. If I'm learning to think critically about that, okay, so we've got that right here. Then I'm learning to think critically about the assumptions I have about knowledge. So do not circle anything. Do not add any of your own marks to the ordinary arguments. I'm circling this just for pedagogical reasons. So here was an instance that you should have employed uniform language down there, not in here. So what is the that referring to? I'm learning to think critically about that. Think critically about what? It's referring back to knowledge. So did you catch that? Did you change the word that to knowledge when you copied statement to premise to when reformatting the argument? If you have that here, you need to erase it or cross it out and write the word knowledge instead. And then of course the conclusion goes last. And let's go ahead and look at what it said here. Look at this part. It says, I am learning to think critically about what? Said assumptions. Which assumptions? Well, we have to go back up and we have to look at the argument to figure out where it is. And by the way, sometimes you have to look at the statements after an argument to figure out what the uniform language is. Sometimes you have to look at an earlier part of the argument to figure out what the uniform language is. So here, when we use our critical thinking, reading, and writing skills, we realize that said assumptions means what? Assumptions I have about knowledge. So look at what this says. If I am learning to think critically in a philosophy class, I am learning to think critically about said assumptions. So what happened here? Is there a mistake or an error? Yes. What did the person not do with the word said? They did not employ uniform language. So for this to be 100% correct, that would need to be changed. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this argument. Let's go ahead and do elimination of excess verbiage. You should have crossed out for these reasons. So I'm taking a philosophy class. If I'm taking this kind of class, then I'm learning to think critically for these reasons. It is pretty obvious that I am learning to think critically. Did you capture this assurance? And then this one, I think I mentioned this before, there was a sentence fragment, or this is an issue, bad syntax. I am learning to think critically. So again, you can fix sentence fragments to convey the thought that you actually meant. Okay, so there's only 2 instances of excess verbiage. Let's go ahead and do the argument diagram for our ordinary argument, and of course down here we're going to do our clarified argument. So the diagram again begins with statement numbers and premises. So S1, a premise, is joined together with S2, another premise, in support of S3, a conclusion. So we rewrite this out. Start with the premises, numbering them. Premise 1, I am taking a philosophy class. Next, premise 2, if I am taking a philosophy class, then I am learning to think critically. Conclusion always comes last. I am learning to think critically. Oh, sorry. There you go. There's the whole answer. So I can imagine some students saying, isn't this argument exactly the same as this argument? They have a lot in common. They do include a conditional about, being in a philosophy class and learning to think critically. But this argument is more narrow. It's more focused. It's focused specifically on thinking critically in a philosophy class with respect to one's assumptions, right, about a particular area of belief or domain, and that's knowledge. This one's just a general argument about taking a philosophy class and thinking critically. This one is much more narrow. It's about what are you thinking critically about? Well, assumptions. Which assumptions? The ones that I have about knowledge. Okay, so there was no room here for employing uniform language, so we will just stop there. We're going to go ahead and do one more argument in this video, and it's going to be this one. So remember, this one we said was premise 1 was a conclusion, and then we said that this one is a premise, and we said that this one is another premise. So statement 3. Okay, so we already worked on that, and I'm just, redoing it a little bit, or replicating what we've done. So there is no doubt. So if you haven't worked on this, go ahead and work on it. So there is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that I'm going to, and okay, so did you catch this? There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that. That's an assurance. Did you get rid of it? Okay, and then we have, remember, so actually, I forgot. Last time we did what? We did number that because it is a statement. This is a statement. So that's statement 3 and that's statement 4. So statement 1, 2, 3, 4. But we didn't label this because we said, we didn't label this because it's not functioning as a premise or conclusion. It's functioning, the entire thing is functioning as a premise indicator. So yes, a sentence itself, the entire thing can be a premise or a conclusion indicator. An entire statement could be just a premise or conclusion indicator. This says I'm going to give you my reasons, but it doesn't tell you what the reasons are. This is where you're told what the reasons are. Okay, so we're going to get rid of these words too, first, second. So if you ever see a line of reasoning, and then they're saying, well, first, I believe this because, second, you're going to want to cross that out. They're just saying, let me give you this reason first. Now, second, I'm going to give you that reason. We don't need that sequential information in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the, so we already know, I'm going to stop labeling these, but you might want to do that. This is the ordinary argument. And the diagram for this will be what? Do we start with statement 1? No, because in the diagram, the conclusion comes last. So we got to start with statements 2 and 3. S2, a premise, works collectively, jointly, together with S3, another premise. And then what comes last? Based on the ordinary argument, the conclusion, which is S1, conclusion. Okay, so was there any other excess verbiage in here? No. So premise 1 is Oh, so premise one, I almost started to copy this. Why would that be a mistake? Because this is the conclusion, and our formatting conventions tell us what comes first, the premises. So the course schedule says we will focus on that topic. So then I've got premise two. I have already started to articulate my views about it in a foundational writing assignment. And then, so we've got premise one, so statement two becomes premise one, statement three becomes premise one, statement four becomes premise two, and then we go back up here, let's not forget the conclusion, which always comes last when reformatting. I am going to end this philosophy class better able to articulate my views about free will. Okay, so this is the clarified version of the ordinary argument. I actually made a mistake, 2 mistakes on purpose this time. Did you catch my mistakes when I was reformatting? What did I forget to do? I forgot to do what? Apply uniform language. Notice what it says here, that topic. So this isn't a good way to start off with a fully clarified argument. I'm here, but what is it about? What is that topic? What should we have here instead? What should we have written? Well, we don't know. Unlike the other argument where we had to go earlier into the passage to figure out what the uniform language is, in this one we have to go later. So that is because, so that's what this is, right? So this is that topic. Do you see that right here? So I'm here. Oh, okay, so actually in the ordinary argument, so let's say you're focused on that and you're going to that topic. So yeah, in here you would go back up. So you would say free will. But let's say you're just looking at this part and you want to use this part to figure out what is that topic. Well, then you would go later into the argument. So you can do it either way. You can say, okay, let me go back to where it is, that topic. Okay, can I get the information from here? Can I get the information from here? If you use this, you get it from up here. If you want to figure out what that refers to with respect to the topic, you're going to go down. So it says what? It says here, it says about it. So that doesn't tell me anything. So I actually have to go all the way down here to see that what? The topic is what? Free will. So what you should have written, or what it would be the correct answer here would be the course schedule says we will focus on free will. So that should not say that topic. It should say on free will. You could say on the topic of free will, but then down here you would have to say about the topic of free will, as long as the language is uniform. So again, the point isn't to make it concise. You just want to make sure you're using uniform language and staying precise, original to the with the original argument. I have already started to articulate my views about it. So again, what are they talking about when they say it? Well, it's the same thing, free will. So instead of free will, you need to write about free will, or if you want to use the phrase the topic of free will.